This isn't jealousy. It's evidence.
The text message arrived at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that started like any other day in my ordinary life as a structural engineer in Wilmington, North Carolina. I was reviewing blueprints for a new shopping center when my phone buzzed with the words that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I'm in the hospital after a mental health crisis because you won't commit to our future. The doctors say I tried to hurt myself because of your emotional abandonment. This is your fault, Ethan. I might not make it through the night. As I read Vanessa's message 3 times, my wife of 8 years, sending me a farewell text while I sat in my sterile office, completely unaware that our relationship had reached such a devastating breaking point. I grabbed my keys and raced to the flower shop on Market Street, my mind spinning with guilt and panic. How had I missed the signs? Sure, we'd been arguing more lately about buying a bigger house, about starting a family, about my supposedly lack of ambition compared to her successful career as a legal assistant at Summers & Associates. But that kind of message? This felt like it came from nowhere. "I need your best roses," I told the elderly woman behind the counter, my voice shaking. "It's an emergency." She wrapped 24 red roses in elegant paper while I called Vanessa's parents from the parking lot. Her father, Richard Farr, answered on the second ring with his usual stern tone. "Ethan, what's wrong?" "It's Vanessa. She's in the hospital. Some kind of mental health crisis. She sent me a text saying she tried to hurt herself because of our marriage problems." The silence stretched for several seconds. "Which hospital?" "She didn't say. I'm calling around now." "Margaret and I will meet you there. Find out where she is immediately." I'm calling every hospital in the area. Cape Fear Valley, New Hanover Regional, even the smaller clinics. None of them had any record of Vanessa Rhodes being admitted. Not in the emergency room, not in psychiatric care, not anywhere. A cold dread settled in my stomach as I sat in my car outside the 4th hospital, roses wilting on my passenger seat. I opened the Find My Friends app we'd installed years ago for safety reasons. Vanessa's location showed her at the Blockade Runner Beach Resort, 20 miles away. My wife wasn't in a hospital fighting for her life. She was at a luxury resort. Richard and Margaret Farr arrived at the resort in their pristine Mercedes, just as I was getting out of my Honda Civic, still clutching those ridiculous roses. Margaret's face was pale with worry, her usually perfect makeup slightly smudged from crying. "Are you certain she's here?" Richard asked, his silver hair gleaming under the resort's elegant lighting. "Her phone says she is." We walked through the marble lobby together, past couples enjoying romantic dinners and families laughing over vacation plans. The contrast between their joy and our family crisis felt surreal. That's when I saw her. Vanessa was pressed against the bar in the resort's Ocean View restaurant, locked in a passionate kiss with a man I recognized immediately. Brent Summers, her boss. The same Brent Summers who'd been to our house for dinner parties, who'd shaken my hand with fake sincerity while apparently planning to steal my wife. She was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed was too fancy for anywhere we ever go. Her hands were tangled in his expensive hair, while he gripped her waist with the confidence of a man who clearly wasn't worried about her mental health crisis. Margaret gasped audibly. Richard's face turned the color of granite. I stood there, holding 24 roses like the world's biggest fool, watching my marriage dissolve in real time, while her parents witnessed every humiliating second. Vanessa finally noticed us. Her eyes went wide with panic as she pushed away from Brent, lipstick smeared, her carefully constructed lie crumbling around her. "Ethan! Mom! Dad! I can explain everything!" Explain what?" I asked, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "Explain how you're having a romantic dinner while supposedly fighting for your life in a psychiatric ward? Explain how you sent me a fake farewell text to manipulate me into rushing to your rescue with flowers and guilt." Brent straightened his tie and extended his hand like we were meeting at a business conference. "Ethan, good to see you. Vanessa was just telling me about your marriage troubles. I was offering her emotional support during this difficult time." Emotional support, I repeated. Is that what we're calling adultery now? The restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners were staring at our family drama unfolding in their peaceful vacation spot. A waiter hovered nearby, clearly unsure whether to intervene. Richard stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to boardroom confrontations. Vanessa, you told us your husband was emotionally harmful and that you were hospitalized because of his neglect. You begged us to support you through a mental health crisis. I am having a crisis, she protested. Ethan doesn't understand my needs. He won't commit to our future. By committing to our future, you mean having an affair with your boss? Margaret asked quietly. Brent cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Richard said firmly. My daughter has publicly humiliated this family and her husband with lies and manipulation. There's nothing private about this anymore. I looked at the roses in my hands, then at my wife's guilty face, then at her parents' expressions of disgust and disappointment. The absurdity of the situation hit me like a physical blow. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Vanessa. I actually believed you were in danger. I dropped everything at work, bought these flowers, called your parents in a panic, and spent an hour terrified that I'd failed you as a husband. I was ready to commit to anything you wanted if it meant saving your life. Ethan, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You're not sick. You're not in crisis. You're just a cheater who got caught. Richard placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. Son, I owe you an apology. And more than that, I owe you an opportunity to prove your worth outside of this toxic situation. How would you feel about coming to work for my construction company? Senior project manager position, significant salary increase, full benefits. Dad, you can't just... Vanessa started. I can and I will, Richard cut her off. You've shown your true character tonight. Ethan deserves better than the daughter I apparently failed to raise properly. I looked at Brent, who was checking his expensive watch like he had somewhere important to be. Tell me something, Brent. How long has this been going on? Ethan, I don't think... 6 months, Vanessa whispered. It started at the Christmas party. 6 months, while I was working overtime to save money for the house she wanted, while I was planning our anniversary trip, while I was believing her lies about working late at the office. I handed the roses to a confused busboy walking past our table. Here, give these to someone who deserves them. My phone was already buzzing with text messages. Word travels fast in a town like Wilmington, especially when it involves the prominent Farr family and a respected law firm. By tomorrow, everyone would know about Vanessa's fake hospital story and her affair with her married boss. Sitting in my car in the resort parking lot, I realized something had fundamentally changed inside me. The guilt and panic I'd felt reading her text message had been replaced by something colder and more focused. If roses had thorns, I'd be covered in scars. But instead of hurting, I was starting to plan. The gossip mill in Wilmington works faster than social media. By Thursday morning, my phone was exploding with messages from friends, coworkers, and people I barely knew, all wanting to know if the rumors about Vanessa were true. My best friend Sam Patel called while I was drinking coffee and staring at the divorce papers I'd printed from a legal website. Dude, please tell me you didn't actually catch your wife making out with her boss at the blockade runner while her parents watched. I wish I could tell you that. Holy crap, Ethan. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I'm employed by Farr Construction as of Monday morning, and I'm about to become very single. Sam owns a yacht repair business down at the marina, which makes him the unofficial gossip central for Wilmington's boating community. If information flows through this town, it passes through Sam's shop at some point. Listen, there's more you need to know, Sam said carefully. Brent Summers has been bragging about your wife at the yacht club for months, talking about how he upgraded her lifestyle and how you were too boring to keep a woman like that satisfied. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. He's been publicly humiliating me for months? Gets worse. Apparently, Vanessa's been telling people at her office that you're emotionally toxic and that she's planning to leave you for someone who appreciates her ambition. I set down my coffee cup before I threw it across the room. She's been setting up a narrative. Exactly. Making herself look like the victim and you look like the bad guy. So when she finally left you for her boss, everyone would think she was justified. That's when I realized Vanessa's fake farewell text wasn't just manipulation. It was the final piece of her public relations strategy. She was going to claim I drove her to a mental breakdown, paint herself as the suffering wife who found comfort in another man's arms, and walk away from our marriage looking like a survivor instead of a cheater. Except her plan backfired spectacularly when her parents witnessed the truth. Sam, I need a favor. Name it. I want to know everything about Brent Summers, his schedule, his habits, where he goes, who he talks to. Can you ask around the yacht club? You planning something stupid? I'm planning something smart. There's a difference. That afternoon, I drove to Vanessa's office building downtown. She worked on the 15th floor of a glass tower that housed 3 law firms, including Summers and Associates. I parked across the street and waited. At 5:30, Vanessa emerged from the elevator wearing a new outfit I'd never seen before. An expensive-looking black dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. She was laughing at something on her phone as she walked toward the parking garage. I followed her Mercedes through downtown traffic, staying far enough back to avoid detection. Instead of heading toward our house in Midtown, she drove to the Marina District and pulled into the yacht club parking lot. The Wilmington Yacht Club sits on a prime piece of waterfront real estate, all white columns and manicured lawns, designed to make wealthy people feel even wealthier. I'd been there exactly twice in 8 years of marriage, both times for Vanessa's work events, where I spent the evening listening to lawyers and financial advisors talk about their boats. I parked behind a landscaping truck and watched Vanessa walk toward the main building. 5 minutes later, Brent's silver Range Rover pulled up to the valet station. Brent Summers looked exactly like what he was, a successful small-city lawyer who thought he was much more important than he actually was. Expensive suit, expensive watch, expensive car, expensive hair. The kind of man who tips bartenders with $20 bills to make sure everyone notices his generosity. I watched him meet Vanessa at the club's entrance. They didn't even try to be discreet. He put his hand on the small of her back and guided her inside like they were an established couple arriving for dinner. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Farr. Ethan, can you start Monday instead of next week? I have a project that requires your specific expertise. I texted back, absolutely. What kind of project? Commercial. The client is looking to build a new office complex downtown. The current plan was designed by Summers and Associates consulting engineer, but there are structural concerns. I'd like a second opinion from someone I trust. The irony was perfect. My first job working for my father-in-law would be reviewing and potentially undermining work connected to my wife's lover's law firm. I spent the next hour sitting in my car, watching wealthy Wilmington residents come and go from their exclusive club. Around 7:30, I saw something interesting. A woman I recognized as Erica Chen, Vanessa's best friend and fellow legal assistant, walked into the club alone. Erica had been to our house dozens of times over the years. She knew every detail of my marriage, every fight Vanessa and I had ever had, every private moment my wife had chosen to share with her closest friend. If anyone knew the full extent of Vanessa's affair and her planning, it would be Erica. 20 minutes later, Erica emerged from the club looking upset. She was talking rapidly on her phone as she walked to her car, her voice carrying across the parking lot in the evening quiet. I can't keep covering for you, she was saying. This is getting out of hand. Her parents saw everything, and now everyone knows about the fake hospital story. Shields, have paused listening to whoever was on the other end. No, I won't lie to anyone else for you. Figure it out yourself. Erica ended the call and sat in her car for several minutes, clearly agitated. Then she made another call. Mom, it's me. Remember how you always said I should be careful about the company I keep? You were right. I'm done with this whole situation. Vanessa was losing allies. Her carefully constructed support network was crumbling as people realized the extent of her deception and manipulation. At 9:15, Vanessa and Brent finally left the yacht club. They walked to his Range Rover together, and I watched him open the passenger door for her with exaggerated chivalry. They were so focused on each other that neither of them noticed me following them out of the parking lot. Brent drove to a waterfront condo complex called Harbor Lights, one of those luxury developments with a security gate and a marina full of expensive boats. He used a keycard to get through the gate, confirming that this wasn't just a casual visit. He had regular access to this place. I parked on the street outside the complex and used my phone to research the property records. The condo was owned by Brent Summers, purchased 8 months ago for $750,000. A second residence, probably his private retreat for activities he didn't want his wife to know about. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "We need to talk. I'm coming home tonight." Resolving, outraged. Texted back, "I won't be there. Staying at Sam's for a few days while I figure things out. Ethan, please, let me explain everything." There's nothing to explain. I saw everything I needed to see. You don't understand the whole situation. I understand that you're a liar and a cheater. That seems like the whole situation to me. She didn't respond. I drove to Sam's house in the historic district, a renovated Victorian that he'd bought with the profits from his yacht repair business. Sam was waiting on his front porch with 2 beers, and the kind of grim expression that meant he had more bad news to share. "Talk to some people at the yacht club," he said, handing me a beer. "Your wife and her boss have been having dinner there twice a week for months. They have a regular table, and the staff knows their usual orders. This isn't some new affair, it's a full relationship. How public has it been? Public enough that people have been wondering when you were going to find out. I'm sorry, man. I should have told you sooner, but I hoped I was wrong about what I was seeing." Took a long drink of beer and watched the sunset paint Sam's neighborhood in shades of gold and orange. Everything looked the same as it had a week ago, but my entire world had shifted on its axis. "I'm not angry at you for not telling me," I said. "I'm angry at myself for being so blind." "What are you going to do now?" "I'm going to make sure everyone in this town knows exactly who Vanessa Rhodes really is. And I'm going to make sure Brent Summers regrets the day he decided to humiliate me in public." Sam raised his beer in a mock toast. To revenge served cold. To revenge served publicly, humiliatingly, and with perfect timing. My phone buzzed with another text from Vanessa. "I'm at the house. Your stuff is still here. We can work this out." I showed the message to Sam, who laughed bitterly. She really thinks she can manipulate her way out of this. She's about to learn otherwise. Monday morning at FAR Construction felt like stepping into a different life. Richard had given me a corner office with a view of the Cape Fear River and a salary that was 30% higher than my previous job. The irony wasn't lost on me. My wife's affair had inadvertently launched my career to a new level. "The Summers project is on your desk," Richard said during our morning meeting. "The structural plans for their downtown office complex. I want you to review every detail. If there are problems, I want them documented thoroughly." The plans were spread across my new drafting table like a roadmap to Brent's professional reputation. As I studied the blueprints, I found exactly what Richard suspected I would find: several significant structural concerns that could delay construction for months and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix. Brent's consulting engineer had cut corners on foundation depth and load-bearing calculations. The building would probably stand, but it wouldn't meet current safety codes for a structure that size in a hurricane-prone area. Any competent engineer reviewing the plans would catch the problems immediately. I spent the morning documenting every issue with photographs, calculations, and detailed notes. By lunchtime, I had a comprehensive report that would effectively end the project as currently designed. My phone rang while I was reviewing soil composition data. It was Detective Mike Harlan from the Wilmington Police Department. "Mr. Rhodes, I need to speak with you about a complaint filed by your wife." My stomach dropped. "What kind of complaint?" "She's claiming you've been stalking and harassing her. Says you followed her to several locations over the weekend, and that you're making threatening phone calls." "That's completely false. Can you come down to the station this afternoon, just to give your side of the story?" "Can I ask what evidence she provided?" "That's something we'll discuss in person." I hung up and immediately called the lawyer Richard had recommended, a sharp woman named Patricia Lacey, who specialized in family law and had a reputation for not tolerating nonsense from manipulative spouses. "Vanessa's trying to establish a pattern of maltreatment to strengthen her position in divorce proceedings," Patricia explained during our phone consultation. "It's a common tactic. She's probably hoping you'll do something stupid in response to the false accusations." "What should I do?" "Tell the truth, provide your alibi, and don't contact her directly anymore. All communication goes through me from now on. At the police station, Detective Harlan turned out to be a tired-looking man in his 40s who'd clearly dealt with plenty of messy divorces. He listened to my account of the weekend's events with professional skepticism. "So, you admit you followed your wife to the yacht club?" "I followed my wife to confirm she was having an affair," which she was. "I never approached her, never threatened her, and never contacted her, except to respond to her text messages." "She says you've been calling her office and hanging up." "I haven't called her office once. Check the phone records." Harlan made a note. "She also claims you damaged her car." "I haven't touched her car." "What about Brent Summers' car?" I paused. "What about it?" "Someone keyed the word cheater into the paint on his Range Rover sometime Sunday night. It was parked at the yacht club." I felt a smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. "I was at my friend Sam Patel's house Sunday night. We watched the game and drank beer until midnight. You can check with him." Which was true. I had been at Sam's house. I just hadn't mentioned that I'd driven back to the yacht club around 1 a.m. and spent 10 minutes with my house key and Brent's expensive paint job. "Mr. Rhodes, I'm going to be straight with you. Your wife is trying to paint you as an unstable, vengeful husband. The best thing you can do is stay away from her and let your lawyers handle everything." "I understand completely. Because if I have to come looking for you again, the conversation won't be this friendly." I drove back to the office feeling oddly energized. Vanessa was escalating the conflict, which meant she was scared. Scared people make mistakes, and I was going to be ready when she made hers. Sam called around 4 p.m. with an update from his yacht club reconnaissance. "Your boy Brent is not having a good day. His car's in the shop getting repainted, and apparently his wife found out about the affair." "His wife knows?" "Someone sent her photos of Brent and Vanessa at the yacht club. Professional quality pictures, very clear, very damaging. Melanie Summers showed up at the club this morning screaming at the staff about her husband's infidelity. I had no idea who might have taken those photos, but I was grateful for their timing." "There's more," Sam continued. "Erica Chen was at the marina today asking questions about boat rentals. She seemed nervous, kept looking over her shoulder like someone was following her. Why would she want to rent a boat? No idea, but she was asking specifically about boats that could get to Bald Head Island quickly and quietly. Head Island was a private resort community, accessible only by ferry or private boat. If someone wanted to have a secret meeting away from Wilmington's gossip network, it would be the perfect location. That evening, I sat in my new office after hours, working on the Summers project report and thinking about the chess game my marriage had become. Vanessa was trying to control the narrative with false police reports and victim stories. Brent was dealing with his own marital crisis and professional embarrassment. Erica was apparently planning some kind of secret meeting. Everyone was making moves, but I was the only one who could see the whole board. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop harassing my family, or you'll regret it." I screenshot the message and forwarded it to Patricia Lacey with a note. "More evidence of Vanessa's campaign against me." Texted back immediately. That message wasn't sent from Vanessa's phone number. I checked the number again. I set 5 pieces path. I finally free texted them. I hope the message wasn't mentioned that 5 joined them, but this indicated that message was not a lease them doc. I checked the number again. That message wasn't sent from Vanessa's phone number. He texted back immediately. I checked it regardless of check the number again. It was definitely not Vanessa's phone. Then who sent it? Probably Brent Summers. He's escalating too. This is actually good for us. Shows coordination between them to harass you. Melting back in my chair and looked out at the lights reflecting on the Cape Fear River. The game was getting more complicated, but I was starting to understand the rules. My computer chimed with an email notification. The message was from Erica Chen, sent to my work address. "Ethan, we need to talk. There are things about Vanessa and Brent that you don't know. Things that could help you. Meet me at the Pilot House restaurant tomorrow at 7 p.m. Come alone. Homeland." I stared at the message for several minutes, weighing the possibilities. Erica had been Vanessa's closest friend for years. She knew every secret, every plan, every detail of the affair. She'd also been the one making upset phone calls outside the yacht club and asking about boat rentals to private islands. Either she was setting me up for something, or she was ready to betray her best friend. I typed back, "I'll be there." The next evening, I arrived at the pilot house 15 minutes early and chose a table with a clear view of the entrance. The restaurant sat on the Cape Fear River with a deck overlooking the water, popular with tourists and locals alike. Public enough to be safe, busy enough to provide cover for a sensitive conversation. Erica arrived exactly on time, wearing dark sunglasses, despite the evening hour, and looking around nervously as she entered the restaurant. She was a small woman in her mid-30s, with short black hair and the kind of sharp intelligence that made her valuable as a legal assistant. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting across from me and immediately pulling out her phone to check for messages. "What do you want to tell me, Erica?" She looked around the restaurant again, then leaned forward and spoke quietly. "Vanessa has been planning to leave you for over a year. The affair with Brent started last Christmas, but she's been setting up her exit strategy since before that." "What kind of exit strategy?" "Financial, legal, social. She's been documenting everything you do, every argument you have, every time you come home late from work. She's been building a case that you're an absent, emotionally harmful husband who drove her into another man's arms. A cold wind seems to have blown air. Why are you telling me this? I'm tired of lying for her, and because there's more you need to know about Brent." Erica pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. "Brent has been having affairs with multiple women at the law firm, not just Vanessa. He's been using his position to coerce younger employees into relationships, then discarding them when he gets bored." The text messages were from a woman named Jessica, a paralegal at Summers and Associates, describing Brent's inappropriate behavior and her fear of reporting it because he controlled her job evaluations. "How many women?" I asked. "At least 4 that I know of. Vanessa thinks she's special, thinks he's going to leave his wife for her, but she's just the latest in a long line of women he's manipulated. Why haven't any of them reported him? Because he's smart about it. He targets women who need their jobs, women with student loans or family obligations. He makes it clear that their careers depend on keeping him happy." I studied Erica's face, looking for signs of deception. "What do you want from me?" "I want him stopped, and I want Vanessa to face consequences for what she's done to you and to these other women she's helped him target." "Helped him target?" Drawley has been recruiting women for Brent, finding out which employees are struggling financially or having personal problems, then introducing them to her boss, who's always willing to offer mentorship and career guidance. The scope of their operation was staggering. It wasn't just an affair, it was a systematic pattern of workplace exploitation, with my wife serving as Brent's accomplice. "I have documentation," Erica continued. "Text messages, emails, recorded conversations. Enough evidence to destroy both of their careers and possibly result in criminal charges. What do you want me to do with this information?" "I want you to help me expose them, publicly, professionally, and legally. But it has to be done carefully, with perfect timing, so they can't cover their tracks or destroy evidence." I looked out at the Cape Fear River, watching boats navigate the evening traffic on the water. A plan was forming in my mind, bigger and more comprehensive than anything I'd considered before. "What did you need the boat rental for?" Righteousness Rika smiled for the first time since sitting down. "Brent and Vanessa are planning a romantic weekend at Bald Head Island this Saturday. They think they're being discreet, but I've been monitoring their communications. They're staying at the island's most expensive resort, celebrating what Vanessa thinks will be Brent's decision to finally leave his wife. But that's not what's going to happen. No, what's going to happen is that a group of Brent's victims, along with some very interested journalists and possibly some law enforcement officials, are going to arrive at the same resort at the same time, with evidence and cameras." I raised my water glass in a toast. "Erica, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship." She clinked her glass against mine. "Let's destroy them." Saturday morning dawned clear and calm. Perfect weather for what Erica had dubbed Operation Reckoning. I met her at Sam's Marina at 8 a.m., along with 3 other women who'd agreed to participate in exposing Brent's pattern of maltreatment. Jessica, the paralegal whose text messages Erica had shown me, was a nervous 26-year-old who kept checking her phone and asking if we were sure this plan would work. Sarah, a former legal secretary who'd quit after Brent's advances became too aggressive, had driven down from Raleigh specifically for this confrontation. The third woman, Maria, was a court reporter who'd been documenting Brent's behavior for months while pretending to go along with his advances. "Everyone clear on the plan?" Erica asked as we boarded Sam's boat for the trip to Bald Head Island. "We wait until they're at dinner," Jessica recited. "Public location, plenty of witnesses." Maria starts recording. Sarah presents the evidence. I read my statement about his maltreatment, and Erica confronts Vanessa about her role in recruiting victims. "And I document everything for the divorce proceedings," I added. Sam started the boat's engine and guided us out of the marina into the Cape Fear River. The trip to Bald Head Island would take about 30 minutes, giving us time to review our evidence one more time. Maria had done the most dangerous work, wearing a wire during her interactions with Brent and recording him making explicit demands in exchange for favorable job assignments. The recordings were incriminating, clearly establishing a pattern of quid pro quo workplace maltreatment. Sarah had documented her experiences in a detailed journal, complete with dates, times, and witnesses to Brent's inappropriate behavior. She'd also kept copies of performance evaluations that showed her ratings dropping after she rejected his advances. Jessica had screenshots of text messages and emails from both Brent and Vanessa, showing how they worked together to identify vulnerable employees and manipulate them into compromising situations. "What if they don't confess?" Jessica asked nervously. "They don't have to confess," Erica replied. "We have enough evidence to destroy their careers and their reputations. This confrontation is just the beginning." As we approached Bald Head Island, I felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Everything had to go perfectly. If Brent or Vanessa suspected what was happening, they could flee or destroy evidence, or spin the situation to their advantage. The island's main resort was a sprawling complex of luxury accommodations overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. Sam docked the boat at the marina while we gathered our equipment and evidence files. "They're having dinner at the Ocean View restaurant," Erica reported, checking her phone. "Table for 2 on the deck overlooking the water. Very romantic." We walked through the resort's elegant lobby and out onto the restaurant's deck. There, at a corner table with a perfect view of the sunset, sat my wife and her lover, sharing an expensive bottle of wine and looking like they didn't have a care in the world. Vanessa was wearing a white sundress I'd never seen before, probably bought with money from our joint account. Brent was in casual, expensive clothes, polo shirt, khakis, boat shoes, the uniform of wealthy men pretending to be relaxed. They were holding hands across the table and speaking in low, intimate tones. Vanessa was laughing at something Brent had said, the kind of genuine laughter I hadn't heard from her in months. "Ready?" Erica asked. We approached their table as a group. Maria started recording on her phone while Sarah and Jessica flanked the table to prevent easy escape. I stood directly behind Vanessa's chair, and Erica positioned herself facing Brent. "Hello, Vanessa," I said calmly. "Brent." Vanessa spun around in her chair, her face going pale when she saw me. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to witness justice," I replied. "Ladies, would you like to introduce yourselves?" Trolley stepped forward first. "Mr. Summers, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I used to work as your legal secretary until you made it clear that keeping my job depended on sleeping with you." Brent's confident expression cracked. "I don't know what you're talking about." Jessica moved closer to the table. "I'm Jessica Warren, paralegal at your firm. You've been systematically harassing me for 8 months, and I have documentation of every incident." Maria held up her phone, making sure the recording was visible. "Maria Santos, court reporter. I've been recording your illegal demands for inappropriate favors in exchange for favorable work assignments." The color drained from Brent's face. Other diners on the deck were starting to notice the confrontation, conversations quieting as people turned to watch. Vanessa looked around frantically. "This is maltreatment. You can't just ambush us like this." "Actually, we can," Erica said, pulling out a thick folder of documents, especially when we have evidence of your role in helping Brent identify and target vulnerable women for inappropriate exploitation. Shipping photographs across their dinner table, pictures of Vanessa meeting with various women from the law firm, screenshots of text messages where she discussed their personal problems and financial situations, emails where she provided Brent with detailed information about potential victims. You've been serving as his recruiter, Erica continued, finding women who were struggling and feeding their information to a predator so he could exploit their desperation. Reluctant's house opened and closed without sound. She looked like a fish gasping for air. "This is all lies," Brent said, but his voice lacked conviction. "These women are just bitter about their job performance." Maria played a recording on her phone, Brent's voice clearly audible. Trembling. "Your performance review is coming up, Maria. I'd hate to see your rating suffer because you're not being cooperative with management's requests." The recording continued with Maria asking what kind of cooperation he meant, and Brent explicitly describing intimate acts he expected in exchange for positive evaluations. Several other diners had pulled out their phones and were recording the confrontation. The restaurant manager was approaching our table, looking concerned about the disturbance. "Gentlemen, ladies, I need to ask you to keep your voices down," the manager said diplomatically. "Of course," Sarah replied politely. "We're just presenting evidence of workplace maltreatment and criminal conspiracy to some people who thought they could hide their crimes on a romantic getaway." The manager's expression changed as he realized what he was witnessing. Instead of asking us to leave, he stepped back and allowed the confrontation to continue. "Brent," I said, "I want you to look at my wife and tell her the truth about your intentions." "What do you mean?" "Tell her about your other girlfriends. Tell her about the pattern of affairs you've been having for years. Tell her that she's not special, just the latest in a long line of women you've manipulated and discarded." Brent looked at Vanessa, then at the evidence spread across their table, then at the phones recording every word he said. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "maybe we should discuss this privately." "No," she said, her voice rising. "Tell me right here, right now. Am I the only one?" The silence stretched for several seconds. Brent's inability to answer was answer enough. Vanessa stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. "You bastard! You told me you loved me. You said you were going to leave your wife." "I said that." "Yes, you did. You said we had a future together." Jessica stepped forward with her phone, showing Vanessa a series of text messages. "These are from Brent to me last month. He told me the same thing he told you, word for word." Vanessa read the messages, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally devastation, as she realized she'd been played just as thoroughly as Brent's other victims. "You used me," she whispered. "And you used me," I said to Vanessa. "You destroyed our marriage for a man who was never going to commit to you. You sent me fake farewell texts to manipulate my emotions. You filed false police reports to make me look unstable. You humiliated me in front of your parents and our entire community. Ethan, you recruited vulnerable women for a predatory abuser because it made you feel powerful and important. You're not a victim here, Vanessa. You're an accomplice." Restless Deck had gone completely quiet. Everyone was watching our confrontation like a live television drama. Brent stood up and threw his napkin on the table. "This is extortion. I'm calling my lawyer." Maria said, "You're going to need one. We're filing complaints with the State Bar Association, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the District Attorney's Office on Monday morning. And I'm filing for a restore, and I'm filing for divorce," I added, "with evidence of adultery, fraud, and emotional misuse. You won't get a penny from me, Vanessa." Brent pushed past our group and stalked toward the restaurant's exit. But Sarah blocked his path. "Mr. Summers, you forgot something," she said, handing him a manila envelope. "These are copies of all our evidence, along with a list of attorneys we've consulted about criminal charges. Have a pleasant evening." Vanessa was still standing by the table, staring at the evidence scattered across their romantic dinner setting. Tears were streaming down her face, but I felt no sympathy for her. "How could you do this to me?" she asked. "I didn't do anything to you," I replied. "You did this to yourself, and to Jessica, and Sarah, and Maria, and probably other women we don't even know about yet. I loved him. No, you loved what you thought he could give you. Status, excitement, a more glamorous life. You never loved him, and you certainly never loved me. Gathered up the evidence from the table, while other diners continued recording the aftermath of our confrontation. Several people approached us to offer support and ask questions about filing their own complaints against Brent. As we walked back toward the marina, Vanessa called after me. "Ethan, wait! We can fix this. We can go to counseling." I turned around one last time. "Vanessa, you sent me a fake farewell text to manipulate me into proposing marriage while you were having an affair with your boss. You recruited vulnerable women for a predatory abuser. You filed false police reports to make me look unstable. There is no counseling that fixes that level of betrayal and cruelty. Please, the only thing I want from you now is your signature on divorce papers and your complete absence from my life." Sam was waiting at the boat with the engine running. As we pulled away from Bald Head Island, I watched Vanessa standing alone on the dock, still wearing her white sundress, looking small and defeated against the backdrop of the luxury resort where she'd planned to celebrate her new life, with a man who'd never intended to give her one. "How do you feel?" Erica asked as the island disappeared behind us. "Like I can finally breathe again." Jessica was on her phone, already calling reporters who'd expressed interest in the story. Sarah was reviewing her evidence one more time, preparing for Monday's legal filings. Maria was backing up her recordings to multiple cloud storage accounts. "What happens now?" I asked.
"Now we watch their world collapse,"
Erica said with satisfaction. "Publicly, professionally, and completely." My phone buzzed with a text from Richard Farr. "Ethan, I just received a very interesting call from a reporter asking about Brent Summers and his connection to our construction project. I think Monday is going to be a very productive day." Crimson showed the message to Erica, who smiled. "Your father-in-law works fast. Manslaughter. He doesn't like people who embarrass his family. Priesthood." As we approached Wilmington's marina, I realized that everything had changed. A week ago, I'd been a naive husband who trusted his wife and believed in the basic decency of people. Tonight, I was a man who'd orchestrated the complete destruction of two people who'd tried to destroy me first. The old Ethan would have felt guilty about the devastation we'd caused. The new Ethan felt nothing but satisfaction. Some roses have thorns, but sometimes the thorns are exactly what you need. Monday morning brought the kind of chaos that makes small cities feel like the center of the universe. By 8 a.m., the story of Brent Summers' workplace maltreatment scandal and Vanessa's role in recruiting his victims was the lead story on every local news outlet. The Wilmington Star-News ran a front-page article titled, "Local Attorney Accused of Systematic Workplace Maltreatment." The television stations led their morning shows with footage from our confrontation at Bald Head Island, shot by other resort guests who'd witnessed the entire encounter. I arrived at Farr Construction to find Richard, waiting in my office with coffee and a grim smile. "Ethan, I've been fielding calls since 6 a.m. Reporters, other attorneys, potential clients who want to sue Summers and Associates. This story has legs. Internship. What's the status of their office complex project? Allergies. Officially suspended pending investigation into the structural concerns you identified. Unofficially, dead forever. No one wants to be associated with Brent Summers right now. Misled." My phone rang with a call from Patricia Lacey, my divorce attorney. "Ethan, I have excellent news. Vanessa's attorney called this morning wanting to discuss a quick, uncontested divorce. Apparently, she's no longer interested in fighting for assets or alimony." What? What changed her mind? Misuse. Probably the fact that 3 local law firms have already announced they won't represent her due to conflicts of interest related to the maltreatment scandal. She's running out of legal options and public sympathy. 10 a.m. Jessica, Sarah, and Maria held a press conference outside the offices of Summers and Associates. I watched the live stream from my computer as they presented their evidence to a room full of reporters and supporters. Jessica spoke first, her voice steady and clear. Brent Summers used his position of authority to harass multiple women over several years. When we tried to resist his advances, he retaliated by damaging our careers and threatening our livelihoods. Sarah followed with specific examples of Brent's behavior, reading from her detailed journal of incidents. The reporters scribbled notes furiously as she described a pattern of predatory conduct that spanned years. Maria played excerpts from her recordings, Brent's voice echoing through the press conference room as he made explicit demands for intimate favors in exchange for job security. But the most damaging testimony came when they described Vanessa's role in the scheme. Mrs. Rhodes didn't just know about her boss's maltreatment, Jessica explained. She actively helped him identify targets. She would befriend women in the office, learn about their personal problems and financial struggles, then report back to Brent about who might be vulnerable to his advances. The reporters asked pointed questions about evidence, about the timeline of events, about why the women had waited so long to come forward. Each answer painted a more complete picture of systematic misuse enabled by institutional power and personal manipulation. By noon, the hashtag Summers Scandal was trending on social media. Local Facebook groups were exploding with discussions about the case. Former employees of Summers and Associates were coming forward with their own stories of inappropriate behavior and workplace retaliation. Sam called with updates from the Marina Gossip Network. Brent's wife filed for divorce this morning. She's also kicked him out of their house and frozen their joint bank accounts. Word is, she's planning to take him for everything he's worth. What about Vanessa? Simplified, holed up in your old house, not answering the door. Reporters have been camped outside since dawn, but she won't talk to anyone. At 2 p.m., I received an unexpected visitor. Detective Harlan appeared in my office doorway, looking tired and slightly annoyed. Mr. Rhodes, we need to talk. About what? About the criminal complaint your wife filed against you last week. She's now trying to withdraw it, claiming she was emotionally compromised when she made the accusations. And I don't like being used as a tool in someone's personal vendetta. Your wife lied to me about maltreatment and stalking. She wasted police resources and tried to manipulate the legal system to gain advantage in a divorce proceeding. Are you going to charge her with filing a false report? I'm considering it. Depends on whether she continues to cooperate with our investigation into her boss's criminal activities. Detective Harlan sat down across from my desk and pulled out a notepad. Tell me about the evidence you gathered on Brent Summers. I want to know exactly how you obtained those recordings and photographs. I spent the next hour walking Detective Harlan through the timeline. Everything we'd done was legal. Recording conversations in public places, documenting behavior witnessed by multiple people, gathering evidence of crimes committed against willing participants. Your friend Erica Chen did excellent work, Harlan admitted. Her documentation is thorough and legally sound. We're opening a criminal investigation based on her evidence. What charges are you considering? Workplace maltreatment, quid pro quo extortion, possibly racketeering if we can prove the systematic nature of the scheme. Your wife might face charges as an accessory, depending on how cooperative she is with our investigation. After Detective Harlan left, I sat in my office looking out at the Cape Fear River and processing the magnitude of what we'd accomplished. In less than a week, we'd destroyed 2 careers, ended a marriage, launched criminal investigations, and exposed a pattern of misuse that had been hidden for years. My computer chimed with an email from Erica. Ethan, you need to see the news. Turn on Channel 6. I pulled up the live stream just in time to see a breaking news report from the offices of Summers and Associates. The reporter was standing in front of the building as employees carried boxes out to their cars. The law firm of Summers and Associates announced this afternoon that it is closing permanently, effective immediately. Managing partner Brent Summers has been suspended from practicing law, pending investigation by the State Bar Association. All current cases are being transferred to other firms, and all employees have been terminated. The camera panned across the parking lot, showing lawyers and staff members loading their personal belongings into cars, while reporters shouted questions about the maltreatment scandal. This represents the complete collapse of one of Wilmington's most prominent law firms, brought down by allegations of systematic workplace maltreatment and criminal conspiracy. I watched former employees of Summers and Associates walk past the cameras, some covering their faces, others stopping to express their shock and disappointment. Several mentioned that they'd suspected something was wrong, but had been afraid to speak up. At 4 p.m., Patricia Lacey called with the final piece of good news. Vanessa signed the divorce papers. No contest, no alimony, no division of assets beyond what she brought into the marriage. She also agreed to pay your attorney fees. That was fast. She's desperate to minimize her public exposure. Her new attorney advised her to accept whatever terms you offered rather than risk a prolonged court battle that would keep her name in the news. What about the house? Yours. She's moving out this weekend and won't be contesting ownership. I hung up the phone and realized that my revenge was complete. Brent Summers had lost his career, his law firm, his marriage, and his reputation. He faced potential criminal charges and civil lawsuits that would bankrupt him. Vanessa had lost her job, her marriage, her family's support, and her social standing. She would be known forever as the woman who helped a predatory abuser target vulnerable victims. But more importantly, Jessica, Sarah, Maria, and other victims had found their voices and their power. The women Brent had harassed were no longer silent and isolated. They had support, legal representation, and the satisfaction of seeing their accuser face real consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. "Drinks to celebrate? You've earned it." Azilla, I texted back. "Absolutely, but let's go somewhere nice. I can afford it now." That I prepared to leave the office, I looked one more time at the structural plans for Brent's failed office complex. The building would never be built. The foundation he'd tried to cut corners on would never support the weight of his ambitions. It occurred to me that the same was true of his personal life. You can't build a lasting structure on a foundation of lies, manipulation, and exploitation. Eventually, the weight of your crimes will cause everything to collapse. I walked out of FAR construction into the warm evening air, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone rang with a call from Richard Farr. "Ethan, I wanted to personally thank you for your work on the Summers project. Your structural analysis saved us from a very expensive mistake." "Just doing my job." "No, you did much more than that. You showed integrity, thoroughness, and excellent judgment under pressure. I'm promoting you to senior partner, effective immediately." That means a lot. There's one more thing. Margaret and I want to apologize for our daughter's behavior. We raised her better than that, and we're ashamed of the pain she caused you. You don't need to apologize for her choices. Yes, we do. Family means taking responsibility for each other's actions. Vanessa forgot that lesson, but we didn't. As I drove through downtown Wilmington toward Sam's Marina, I passed the building that had housed Summers and Associates. The windows were dark, and a "For Lease" sign was already posted in the lobby. At the marina, Sam was waiting on his boat with a cooler of beer and a grin that stretched from ear to ear. "To the complete and total destruction of your enemies," he said, raising his bottle in a toast. "To justice served publicly and thoroughly," I replied. We sat on Sam's boat as the sun set over the Cape Fear River, watching other boats navigate the evening traffic. The water was calm, the air was warm, and for the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. "What's next for you?" Sam asked. "I'm going to rebuild my life. Better foundation this time, stronger materials, designed to last." "Unsure? Any regrets?" "Lorska, I thought about Vanessa, standing alone on the dock at Bald Head Island. About Brent's law firm closing forever. About the careers and reputations we'd destroyed in pursuit of justice. None at all. They made their choices, and they got exactly what they deserved." Assaulting. Metrics. My phone buzzed with one final text message of the day from an unknown number. "Thank you for giving us the courage to fight back. Jessica, Sarah, and Maria." Shimmer the message to Sam, who nodded approvingly. That's what real victory looks like, he said. Not just defeating your enemies, but empowering other people to defeat theirs. Relinquish. As darkness fell over Wilmington, I realized that my story wasn't really about revenge. It was about justice, accountability, and the power of truth to destroy even the most carefully constructed lies. Some roses have thorns, but sometimes those thorns are exactly what you need to protect something beautiful from people who would destroy it. And sometimes the most beautiful thing you can protect is the truth itself.